So you get a war, a 9/11, a global war, and you get an economic crisis where parents now in Greece are giving their children away or selling their children because they can't afford to feed them. Can you imagine in that one incident with one set of parents how much is generated here emotionally from the horrific? I can't even think about it. Imagine what it must be like. And that's just two parents. You get that operating. Look at the world. Look at the world every day. All over the world, in all its different expressions, how emotional energy is being generated and produced by the circumstances that society has been structured to create. It's an orgy of energetic vampiring. And so when Morpheus in the Matrix held up a battery and said the Matrix is a computer-generated dream world made to turn humans into one of these, that is a profound truth, because that's what we've become. Not so much batteries, though that was a good symbol, but actually generators, power stations, generating this energy. So we have this situation, if we bring these strands together at this point, in my contention, that these perception programs are running through junk DNA, and the emotional software programs, biological software programs, are running through non-coding junk DNA. And as those programs are running, and as society is structured so that it generates situations, in computer terms, data, that trigger those programs and bring them to the surface where they're more impacting upon our behavior and responses, you are locking humanity into this closed system where the program programs the program, and you're also pulling people from the heart, high vibration, down into low vibrational belly emotional vortex, which is pulling humanity into the predator's vibrational stadium, and in doing so they are able to trawl and vampire the energy that emotional state and response is constantly generating. Now, I've talked for a long time from your question, what can we do? Because that background, I suggest, was fundamentally necessary. So what do we do? What can we do? It might sound trite and all the rest of it. I mean, because what we've got to do, of course, is we've got to stockpile weapons. We've got to create human armies to fight against them, and we've basically got to try to do all the things to them that they do to us, right? And where does that take us? First of all, it makes us them. And secondly, if we go down that road, will do what? Will produce more and more and more of this low vibrational emotional energy in the hatred and in the anger that we produce. And we will also, if we go down that road, we will have symbolically weapons that manifest as a pop gun against state-of-the-art weaponry. So, although it's very macho and very, we've got to fight. I love Tony Blair once. He said, we've got to fight for peace. Sorry, can I just have some time to work that out in a darkened room, please? And it is something that, when you look at it, is very good for the macho we've got to fight him. But as a strategy of bringing this down, is doomed to failure and disaster. because it's playing the game they want us to play. And if you're in that macho mode and you think the whole spiritual side of things and stuff like that is namby-pamby, airy-fairy and a bit, soft, then what I'm going to say will make no sense. But if we are going to bring an end to something that has been created and perpetuated by something happening, then we can fight that something, or we can remove that something. And if you've got your finger in, a boiling pan of water, well, you can turn the gas off, or you can literally take your finger out. In other words, instead of finding a solution to the problem, turning the gas off, not really a solution, your finger's still in there, you remove the cause of the problem. The cause of your problem burning in the water is because your finger's in the frickin' water. So remove it. Done. And if you look at any situation that we want to change, you will always find that removing what has caused the problem is always far more effective than finding a solution to the problem that you've caused. And so, we have this control system, we have this constant and gathering, expanding imposition and dismantling of people's lives financially in all these different ways. And we can say the solution is to fight the system and get out on the streets and fight and all this stuff. Or we can say, what has caused this reality that we are experiencing? So why not remove the cause of the problem? And this is not about fighting. It's not about macho man responses. It's not about shouting loud. It's about changing the way that we interact with reality. And in doing so, stepping out of the influence of the programs that have been running human perception and emotional response throughout known human history, and are creating the world that we live in. Because if I go back to what the Gnostics said about the archons, they have no creative energy. They can't make things happen.
But we can.
We can, yes. Which is bringing us to an interesting point. We can manifest. What this manipulative force has done has programmed humans to use that gift of manifestation to manifest what they want. And so, if we manifest from our perceptions of reality, then manipulate their perception of reality, and they'll manifest what you've manipulated them to perceive as reality. So, I see people challenging war and conflict when their own lives are full of conflict. Now, we live in a holographic reality at this conscious mind level, and there's a very unique and fascinating trait and characteristic of holograms and holographic reality. Every part of the whole is a smaller version of the whole. So if you take, for instance, in the holograms that you buy in the shops, if you take the waveform holographic print, which is on the print in waveform information, and you cut it in four, and you fire the laser, which reads that information in effect and brings the three-dimensional holographic image projecting from the waveform information on the photographic print. If you cut that into four and put a laser to each four pieces, you will not get a quarter of the whole picture. You'll get 4 quarter-size versions of the whole picture. And this is why, or explains why alternative forms of healing, like reflexology and acupuncture and others, can find points on the ear and the feet and the hands and all different parts of the body that relate to the body as a whole. Thus, reflexologists can work on a part of the foot and impact upon the heart or the liver, depending on where they're doing it. And I've known and talked to reflexologists and people like that over the years, and they know it works, but they're not sure why it works or why there are points on the foot and the ear and everything that relate and impact upon the body as a whole. Well, it's simple when you realize that this reality is holographic, because every part of the whole is a smaller version of the whole. The body is a holographic manifestation, it's a hologram. Thus, every part of the body must be a smaller version of the whole, and that's why all over the body, in all the different parts, you can find points that relate to the whole body. In the same way, if we have conflict in our own lives on a so-called individual level, and this is going on all over the world in all these different societies, and it is, then that's a smaller version of the whole. And a hologram moves both ways. When the whole hologram shifts, all the parts of the hologram shift, because they're expressions of each other. You shift or affect the smaller part of the hologram, and in this case it's lots of people, billions of people with conflict in their lives and all that stuff, and that's going to impact on the hologram as a whole, i.e. human society, and you're going to have collective conflict. If we want to put the fire out of the whole, what we call human society and global experience, then we have to put the fire out in our own lives, because we are fueling the fire. We are creating the fire. This is why they want conflict and disruption at all levels of society, because they know that they're constantly impacting upon each other. We have conflict in our own lives. Collectively, we are manifesting collective conflict. You have collective conflict like bombing Libya and Iraq and what have you, and the global conflicts. Those collective conflicts then impact on the individual that reacts to them with a lot more emotional, belly-based emotional response. So everything is connected to everything else. Everything's impacting on everything else.